Secretary of State of the Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, Dr Maria Tidball.
Question number 1, Mr Speaker.
Secretary of State.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. This Labour Government is working in close partnership with farmers to strengthen productivity, resilience and long-term food security. In recent weeks, we have published Baroness Batter's Farming Profitability Review, allocated £30 million to our Farmer Collaboration Fund, set out plans to simplify the SFI and delivered a £30 million extension to the Farming and Protected Landscapes programmes in areas such as the Peak District.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I welcome the commitment to extend the Farming in Protected Landscapes funding worth £75,000 for farms in my constituency. I also had the pleasure of visiting Snailston Moor last summer with Jim Sutton, the moorland manager there, the Peak District National Park, the Moorland Association and Natural England. They raised the high risk of wildfires in uplands locally as a result of large-scale dry spells which can cause damage and poor air quality to nearby farms. The risk is exacerbated by a lack of a cohesive fire plan and firefighting infrastructure, including water storage. Will the Minister meet with me, along with her MHCLG colleagues, to develop a cross-government wildfire management strategy to protect against upland, moorland wildfires?
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I want to pay tribute to all those who do the dangerous work to bring wildfires under control. As she'll know, the wildlife management and fire and rescue element of her question is the responsibility of MHCLG, but she's right, we have a water responsibility. Myself or the Water Minister will be pleased to meet her to discuss how we strengthen the resilience of our emergency services and the water storage to get a hold of these problems when they arise.
Sir Julian.
Number 2, Mr Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. We're backing British farmers to build a profitable and sustainable future. We will put £11.8 billion into food and farming in this Parliament, including £200 million for cutting-edge innovation through the Farming Innovation Programme. Last weekend we announced £21.5 million backing 15 projects to turn new crops and new farm tech into ready-to-use tools that boost productivity.
Sir Julian.
The answer. The Batters report had a number of good recommendations about productivity. North Yorkshire farmers want to produce food. They're obviously worried about the environment, but the priority is food. After COVID, we talked about more food resilience, UK resilience. Could I urge her to press forward quickly with the Batters review recommendations on productivity? Will she come and visit a farm in my constituency soon?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I welcome the members' support for the Batters review. It's a very important part of ensuring that the sector remains profitable. I'm always listening to farmers. I've had many very welcome propositions to visit farms, and I'll see what I can do to fit him into the grand tour.
Well,
Mr Speaker, last week I visited Gisborne Auction Mart in my constituency with my constituents John Alp and Graham Young, where I heard the challenges farms are facing with the rapidly dropping milk prices at the moment, and indeed 2 farms were there to sell up their farms entirely, while others are pushed into further intensification just to survive. As a former head of innovation myself, I know that sometimes productivity and innovation can mean bringing back strong old ideas in new ways. So in that spirit, does she think we should consider bringing back the Milk Marketing Board?
Minister.
Certainly the milk prices had a very difficult adjustment down as part of the global glut in milk supply. So from a period of high prices, we're now in a different kind of period. But what the Honourable Lady is suggesting, Honourable Friend, is really a form of almost price control. I think the best thing that we can do is think about fair dealing obligations and ensure that the agricultural supply chain adjudicator does his job and makes certain that there aren't unfair contracts out there in the market.
Alistair Carmichael, Chair of the Select Committee.
Mr Speaker, I wonder if the Minister has had the opportunity to consider the report by the Anderson Centre for CropLife UK that estimates that an SPS agreement with the European Union that was implemented without a suitable implementation period could result in steep drops in UK crop production and a total loss of income of up to £810 million. That's why the Select Committee today is asking for an implementation period of 24 months. Will she impress upon her colleagues in the Cabinet Office the need for that suitable implementation period?
Mr Speaker, the first thing to say, and I hope he supports this, is that the SPS agreement is attempting to put right the Tories' botched Brexit deal, which made it almost impossible for many people to export to our largest market. So the idea of this is that it should be a mutually beneficial new agreement to remove barriers. Now, I know the Select Committee report came out last night and we'll be certainly responding to it in more detail. We are aware of the potential downsides if wrong deals are done, but we won't sign a deal that isn't in the UK's interests.
Sorry, Jan.
Mr. Speaker, precision breeding is critical to improving productivity, which is why I was so pleased to see so many Norfolk-based research projects, including the fantastic John Innes Centre, receive funding from DEFRA Farming Innovation Programme. It is crucial that we protect these advancements. So could the Minister outline what assurances the Department has sought on precision breeding in the SPS negotiations?
Mr. Speaker, the agreement between the EU and the UK to search for an SPS agreement did recognise explicitly that there is a case for some exceptions. We are negotiating that agreement as we speak. And if I could say, Mr. Speaker, we are very well aware of the advantages that precision breeding gives to this country, which is why we laid the statutory instrument on plant precision breeding in November.
Robbie Moore, Shadow Minister.
Mr. Speaker, farming cash flows are under pressure, and now more than ever do farming businesses need clarity, certainty and clear policy direction from this government. But with partial U-turns, continuous consultations, new task forces, roadmaps, frameworks, reviews and now finally an announcement that the renewed SFI scheme will be launched but not until summer, farming businesses are really struggling to financially plan ahead. So I ask the Minister, in all of this confused policy direction, has she decided the budget allocation for the new SFI scheme? How much will be available per farm and what will the assessment criteria be? And given that she wants to open up the scheme first to those smaller holdings, has she yet defined the definition of a small farm?
Mr. Speaker, we've been quite clear that the new SFI should be simpler. We don't want it to be distributed in the way that it has in the past. Under the Conservatives, 25% of that scheme went to 4% of farms, which is why we have decided to open up the scheme, first and foremost, to small farms. We are in negotiations about the definition. All of this will be set out in great detail. There will be transparency and simplicity ahead, and we won't fall into the traps of creating schemes that are so complex that they cannot be properly administered by the Rural Payments Agency, which is the legacy we received from the party opposite.
Number 3, please, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you. With permission, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to group questions 3 and 9. And I want to begin by sending my deepest sympathy to everybody impacted by recent flooding. Having your home or business flooded is devastating. And I pay tribute to the emergency services, the Environment Agency, communities and volunteers who've stepped up to keep people and communities safe. The latest intelligence I have is that the weather warning remains yellow across much of South West, so we'll keep a close eye on that as it develops today.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I draw the House's attention to my membership of the APPG for flooding and flooded communities. Protecting homes from flooding is vital in communities like Pilding and Severn Beach, Yates and Chipping Sodbury. Yet the Syria C790 Code of Practice for Property Flood Resilience seems to be a well-kept secret. Will the Minister work with the construction and insurance sectors to raise public awareness of this code, and will she consider formalising it through legislation, ensuring my constituents have the protection and the lower insurance premiums they deserve?
Minister.
Thank the Honourable Lady for her question. We recently produced a report through Peter Bonfield called Flood Ready, and this report was exactly about how do we incentivise more people to get property flood resilience. So it was working with contractors, it was working with manufacturers, it was working with everybody involved in the industry to make this a mainstream option for more people. So I highly recommend she has a look at that report. Hopefully she'll find it really useful for herself and her constituents.
Patrick Keighley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Farmers in my constituency report that watercourses are not being sufficiently maintained, there's not enough investment in drainage infrastructure, and there's limited ability to deal with changing rainfall patterns and rising water tables. They tell me that the creation of an internal drainage board could help with all of this. Now, I know that there's been work done to establish new IDBs through a statutory instrument. So can the Minister tell us what the current status of that work is, and can she please expedite it being laid before the House?
Minister.
I thank my honourable friend, and I join him in paying tribute to the work of the internal drainage boards, because they do fantastic work managing water levels, reducing flood lists, supporting communities, businesses and farmers alike. Of course, we're working hard on our statutory instrument. I'm sorry I can't give my honourable friend an exact date, but I can guarantee that it is something I'm committed to doing.
Sarah Dyke, Liberal Democrat spokesman.
Mr Speaker, last week 15 millimetres of intense rain fell across large parts of Somerset and exacerbated the already saturated ground, with a major incident declared on Tuesday. With more unsettled weather in the forecast and high spring tides imminent, residents have told me they're worried they could be facing a repeat of the devastating 2013-14 floods. With the increasingly unpredictable, intense and changing patterns of rainfall, communities must be given the resources they need to prepare for extreme weather resilience plans. And now I thank the Minister for her commitment to come and meet me in Somerset later this year. But would she bring forward her planned visit to Glastonbury and Somerton and meet me to witness the devastating impact on flooding that flooding is having on my communities while the flood water levels remain up?
Yeah. Minister.
The Honourable Lady raises a really important point, and it is devastating. I've been following it really closely, and it is. You're quite right to point out the trauma and the upset that is caused by flooding. I mean, we have invested £80 million between April 24 and March 25 in Somerset on flood and coastal risk management, and we're going to allocate another £75 million to Somerset between April 25 and March 26, and I will check if my diary allows an earlier visit.
Rachel Taylor.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Affinity Water and Severn Trent are opening their... Oh, sorry. Question number 4, please.
Secretary of State.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I wish to group questions 4 and 13 with your permission. This government is overhauling the regulatory system to deliver better outcomes for consumers and the environment. In our water white paper, we set out plans for a more powerful, integrated regulator with real teeth, introducing MOT-style checks on pipes, pumps and other water infrastructure. And last year alone, the Environment Agency has ramped up enforcement, more than doubling inspections of water company assets.
Rachel Taylor.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. It's been a long week. Affinity Water... Affinity Water and Severn Trent are opening their consultation next week on the Grand Union Canal Transfer Scheme. The project will see 53 megalitres of treated water a day pumped into the canal in Atherstone, in my constituency, to be extracted in the south east. Residents in Atherstone are concerned about the noise, damage to the environment and disruption the scheme could create. Could the Minister reassure my constituents that she will work with the water companies involved to ensure that disruption is minimal and the treated water is safe? And will she meet with my constituents to hear their concerns?
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The Grand Union Canal Transfer Scheme will strengthen the nation's long-term water resilience and indeed our water security. I've listened carefully to what she said about the concerns of her constituents, and either myself or the Water Minister would be very happy to meet with her to discuss that further.
James Ash.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My constituents are plagued with endless disruption on roadworks from Thames Water, which is leading to disruption for motorists, delays for public transport and, in some cases, serious safety concerns for cyclists. Does the Secretary of State agree with me these kind of infrastructure works should be properly monitored and inspected so that they're carried out effectively and efficiently and, frankly, so that our constituents can see some benefit at the end of the disruption?
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Under the last government, we saw water infrastructure crumbling, but this government is getting a grip of the water system. We are moving away from the fix-on-failure system that we inherited to a system where there are proper maintenance and resilience standards to get ahead of problems. And I hope this will mean less emergency work and therefore less disruption for his constituents.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. And it's lovely to see the Secretary of State. The last time I saw her was in the Strangers Bar when she was pulling a pint of rebellion overthrow. I can't imagine why that stuck in my mind. The River Thames scheme has been in abeyance, essentially in mid-project review since May last year. So will the Secretary of State please knock some heads together at both the Environment Agency and Surrey County Council and get them to say something about what's happening about the River Thames scheme?
Okay, well, I'm slightly put off by his reference to my brewery. Well, can I first say, and I thank him for putting on record that I did indeed succeed in getting Rebellion Brewery on taps in the Strangers Bar, and I did enjoy pulling that pint, as he witnessed with his own eyes. The Water Minister, I will glad to meet with him to discuss the more substantive and serious issue that he raised.
What?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the 17th of December, during Prime Minister's questions, the Prime Minister promised me a meeting with the Water Minister to discuss the scourge of constant sewage dumping in my North Cornwall constituency and the Lower Moor water poisoning scandal. Yet despite repeated follow-ups, including a visit just last week to Number 10 to speak with the PM's team, who assured me they would chase up this meeting as soon as possible. I appreciate they may be somewhat busy at the moment. They agreed the delay was unacceptable. The Minister is still yet to respond to me. Can I ask the Minister, please, when will this vital meeting take place?
Well, as he may be aware, the Water Minister has been on bereavement leave for some time in January. She would obviously be happy to meet with him to discuss what is a serious issue in his constituency. She has received briefings about the situation and she'd be happy to meet with him.
Sarah Olney.
Question number 5, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. People have every right to be frustrated about bill rises. Years of neglect and underinvestment have left our water infrastructure crumbling, and these increases now show the cost of putting that right. This government is focused on tackling the cost of living, preventing those huge bill increases from ever happening again by fundamentally changing the system and protecting the most vulnerable by strengthening schemes like the Guaranteed Service Standards and Watershore.
Mr. Speaker, Thames Water's typical metered charges increased by 40.7% this financial year, and prices will rise again each year until 2030. Now, while our water companies have been mismanaged and reformed to bring down the cost of bills as needed, more can be done to encourage customers to meter their water usage. The average non-metered household in London is charged £81 more a year than a metered household, but this is not widely known. So I'd like to ask the Minister, will the government do more to advertise the cost-saving potential of water meters, and what further steps is she taking to bring down the average water bill? Thank you.
Minister.
The Honourable Lady is absolutely right. I'm a huge champion of people looking at water meters, because not only does it help with bills, but it also helps reduce people's water use, which helps with abstraction, especially in areas where we have so many chalk streams. So it's something I'm very keen to sort of look at what more can be done. There is a water efficiency fund at the moment from Ofwat, which is looking at innovative ways that we can talk to the public, get them to understand, as she quite rightly said, the benefits of having a water meter, not only, as I say, for their bills, but also for the environment.
Under Slaughter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the Minister have plans to introduce a national social tariff? It wasn't in the recent white paper, but Independent Age, which is a national charity based in my constituency, estimates it could lift up to 500,000 pensioner households out of water poverty entirely.
Minister.
I thank my honourable friend, and I share his concern about the affording water bills for so many people in both our constituencies. And this is why over the next 5 years, water companies are going to be doubling the amount of people who are getting help through social tariffs. But we've also reformed Watershore as well, which is the support for people with disabilities who may require more water use, or people for various other medical reasons that might require more water use as well, because we're focused on making sure that the most vulnerable in all our communities are able to get the water that they need at a price that's affordable for them.
What happened?
Number 6, please, Mr. Speaker.
Oh, apologies, Mr. Speaker. Apologies, Mr. Speaker. The Conservative government allowed millions of pounds to be diverted from essential investment instead of used for unjustified bonuses. We are clear that executive pay must reflect company performance and support Ofwat's plan to consult and require companies to publicly report the details of all executive remuneration.
Lord Hatton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Now, just last month, the Guardian newspaper reported that the CEO and the CFO of Wessex Water received around £50,000 in undisclosed payments from a parent company. And just weeks before, it was reported that a former Wessex Water boss was handed a whopping £170,000 again from a parent company. The galling part is that both of these payments were made the same year that Wessex Water was slapped with a ban for paying bonuses. With all this in mind, does the Minister agree that if bonuses can simply be rebadged as extra payment from parent companies, then we must urgently toughen up the bonuses ban so we can finally hold failing water company bosses to account?
I thank my honourable friend, and I have to say that I do find this situation baffles me. It's quite simple to me that bonuses should reflect performance, and if performance isn't good enough, then you shouldn't get a bonus. And I'm not quite sure why that seems so difficult to understand, because it's not just about the letter of the law, it's about the spirit of the law as well. Ofwat has exposed transparency, a serious transparency failings across the water sector, and therefore we are tightening transparency rules to shut down any attempt to dodge the bonus ban.
David Chappie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Welsh Water's Chief Executive has one of the highest paid jobs in Wales at almost £900,000 a year, with the company hiking basic pay to get around the government's crackdown on executive bonuses despite being a not-for-profit. This is even though Welsh Water presides over some of the worst sewage dumping in the UK, leaking prices and sky-high price rises. Will the Minister look into companies trying to bypass new regulations in this way to ensure those loopholes are closed?
With respect, Mr. Speaker, I think the honourable gentleman has just made the case for why mutualising water companies isn't the answer to performance. But it's also, I'd like to point out that this government has already banned more than £4 million in unfair bonuses, which have been blocked by Ofwat for 24-25.
Joanna Baxter.
Question number 7, please, Mr. Speaker.
Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, pet owners have been facing rising vet costs for years, and that's why we are consulting on updating and reforming the Veterinary Surgeons Act for the first time in 60 years to improve price transparency and ensure pet owners get a better deal.
Joanna Baxter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The BBC Panorama programme, aired on the 12th of January, reported that some vets employed by the Big Six veterinary conglomerates felt pressured into upselling treatments and services that may not be clinically necessary for pets. My constituents were shocked and appalled by those revelations. My right honourable friend will know that I've long campaigned on the government to tackle the soaring cost of veterinary fees, so can she assure the House that the consultation on reform of the Veterinary Surgeons Act will not only bring in much needed reform to support those who work in the sector, but much needed protection for pet owners?
So State.
And the short answer is yes, and I know you have an interest in this as well, Mr. Speaker, but just wanted to pay tribute to my honourable friend's tireless campaigning on this important issue. The consultation will look at a range of issues, and she is absolutely right. We are consulting on modernising the regulation of the professionals in the veterinary professionals, but we're also going to look at requiring vet practices to publish price lists for common treatments and improve price transparency in order that pet owners get a much, much better deal.
Jim Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and can I thank the Minister very much for her answer. As a nation of animal lovers, as we all are, and I know when I got married, my wife loved cats and I didn't, but I realised that if I loved her, I had to love her cats. And that's how it works. Can I bring to the Minister's attention one thing that annoys me and annoys my constituents? It's pet insurance. The pet insurance is okay to the day you go to claim. And when you go to claim, you find out, well, the small print tells you that you haven't got the cover that you thought you had. So can I ask the Minister, when it comes to looking at this, would you look at the pet insurance as well? Thanks so much.
Secretary of State.
I think he makes a very, very good point. I'm glad to hear that his wife has such a profound influence on his cat-loving habits. But indeed, we do need to look at all elements of price transparency, including assurance.
Dr. Neil Hudson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I declare a professional and personal interest as a veterinary surgeon and a fellow of the Royal College of Veterinary Surgeons. I welcome that the government has launched a consultation to reform the Veterinary Surgeons Act 1966. This long overdue reform is necessary and can deliver significant benefits for animal health and welfare, biosecurity and public health. However, I have serious concerns about DEFRA's communications that conflated reform of the Veterinary Surgeons Act with the Competition and Markets Authority inquiry, resulting in a media narrative focused entirely on veterinary pricing. This has caused real distress across the sector among frontline vets, nurses and reception staff, impacting morale and mental health. I have been contacted, Mr Speaker, by voices from across the profession expressing their extreme alarm at this approach. Mr Speaker, can the Government reassure us that they will work closely with key stakeholders to get this vital, much-needed legislation right? And can they guarantee they will prioritise the parliamentary time it requires?
I thank him for his question, and I think the kind words that he said, that we were doing something that they failed to do for 14 years. He does bring great expertise to this House, but I would say to him gently that I do think that the CMA, having found that vet fees have risen at nearly twice the rate of inflation, is something that the government should take into account, is something that is of concern to pet owners across the House and across the country, and is something that, when the CMA comes out with its final report, we will be responding to later this year.
Lindsay Farm.
Question 8, Mr Speaker, please.
Mr Speaker, our animal welfare strategy sets out major reforms to improve the lives of millions of animals across the UK, building on Labour's strong record of driving up standards. A key part of this work is ending puppy smuggling. The strategy cracks down on low welfare dog breeding, raises welfare standards for licensed breeders, and creates a proper registration scheme for every breeder.
Lindsay Farm.
Mr Speaker, sticking with the theme of cats, my office was recently alerted to a rather troubling incident of a cat whose owner had been taken unexpectedly into hospital with no one able to access the flat. Many days were taken for the police to obtain a warrant, and meanwhile all the RSPCA were able to do was post ice and food through the letterbox to keep the cat alive. Animals should not be left to suffer in these circumstances. So will the Minister consider granting the RSPCA limited powers of entry to rescue animals faster without delays caused by police time and resourcing constraints?
Minister.
Mr Speaker, I'm sorry to hear about the trauma that happened with her constituent. I think we recognise the RSPCA's vital role in promoting animal welfare, but we don't have plans to extend statutory enforcement powers at this stage. We believe that such powers are normally reserved for public bodies with formal lines of accountability, and we want to ensure that any future approach maintains a clear oversight while preserving the RSPCA's important charitable and advocacy functions.
Lisa Smart.
Mr Speaker, one of the topics that constituents get in touch with me about a lot, particularly over the autumn, is the impact that fireworks can have on domestic animals, both in terms of the volume of the number of displays or just kids in their back garden or in the street deploying fireworks, the impact this has, the distress that it causes to animals, but also to people who have suffered trauma or have served as veterans. Could I urge the Department to look at limiting the volume of fireworks or restricting the use of fireworks solely to licensed displays?
We are aware of the welfare issues around fireworks, and we are looking at the evidence to see whether any such activity, as she mentions there, would actually make a difference or not.
Right, we come to topicals. Patrick Hurley.
Number 1, please, sir.
Sorry, Mr Speaker. Thank you, Mr Speaker. Since the last oral questions, we have published the animal welfare strategy. I have set out some key reforms to SFI, and we have also hosted in Manchester the IPBES, the International Panel on Nature, and we have published our water white paper, once-in-a-generation reforms to our water system so that it's fit for the future and delivers better outcomes for consumers and the environment.
Patrick Hill.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. As you'll know, Southport is a lovely seaside resort and one of the nicest places to visit in the whole of the country. So can I ask the Minister what recent discussions has she had with United Utilities about reducing sewage discharges which affect Southport and the wider North West Coast?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Water Minister and I are working closely with water companies across the country, including from United Utilities, to drive them to reform their operations and clean up rivers, lakes and seas. Our water white paper will replace the one-size-fits-all approach with dedicated supervisory teams at every company, and UU is invested in £50 million to upgrade Southport wastewater treatment by 2029 to reduce storm overflow spills and improve coastal water quality.
Shall the Secretary of State Victoria Atkins?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The EU reset deal is predicted to slash around a third of the government's farming budget from farm profits in its first year, cause higher food prices and lower food production, and will sink the UK fishing industry. As the Prime Minister's authority seeps away, will she insist that this shoddy deal is renegotiated whilst she's still in post?
Nice try. We're still negotiating the deal, and the whole purpose of the deal is to bring down trade barriers that her government put up during their bots Brexit negotiations.
Victoria Atkins.
For goodness sake, if they're still renegotiating, she needs to deal with those matters I have raised, because it's not just the farming sector they are damaging, it is the entire rural economy. Rural and coastal businesses tell me they simply cannot afford Labour's high taxes, rates and costs, and they will not survive. In these desperate times, will the government match the Conservatives' plan to help rural and coastal businesses by scrapping business rates entirely for our high streets?
Well, I seem to remember they were in power for 14 years and they didn't do what she just set out. That is a question for the Treasury, not for DEFRA. But I will say, on the SPS deal, we are still in the process of negotiating a deal which will bring down trade barriers for farmers and food producers, helping both those who export to our largest market but also those who import, and it will deliver better outcomes for consumers too. And I make no apology of clearing up the mess that they left us.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today, a letter is on its way to the Secretary of State, signed by over 40 MPs and peers, highlighting the Coalition for Fisheries Transparency's Criminal Catches report. Will she agree to meet with us to discuss how we can stop the UK becoming a dumping ground for illegal seafood linked to criminality, environmental destruction and human exploitation?
Minister.
Well, certainly, once the Honourable Lady gets the letter off to us, she will get a reply. The UK has a robust regulatory framework to combat illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing. DEFRA and the Marine Management Organisation work closely with the devolved governments, local authorities and port health authorities to ensure documents are appropriately checked and verified on seafood imports from all countries. If she wants to demonstrate that there are some cases where this isn't happening, then I would be very interested indeed to hear from her.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What steps is DEFRA taking to raise public awareness of the impact of methane-reducing feed additives such as Bovaer used in livestock farming? And what steps is DEFRA taking to ensure that all chemicals and additives are tested and proven to be safe for humans, animals and nature before being approved for use in agriculture and food?
Well, we have a system. Methane-reducing feed products, whether seaweed, oils or synthetic products like Bovaer, are a key tool in reducing emissions from agriculture up to 1/3. It's approved. Bovaer is approved for use in 70 countries, including the EU, Switzerland, US, Canada and Australia, and we are building the market for safe, effective options and helping farmers to adopt them. But they're approved by the Food Standards Agency, and that advice has not been changed. It's been reviewed by 100 peer-reviewed scientific studies.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My constituents have had to put up with over 2 years of toxic stenches because of Transwaste's disgraceful activity at Jameson Road landfill site. Residents are weary of the endless enforcement orders issued by the Environment Agency. It isn't complicated. The toxic stink has to stop. Will the Minister work with me to ensure the Environment Agency has the powers to shut down these cowboys once and for all.
Minister.
I pay tribute to my honourable friend for her tireless campaigning on this disgraceful site. The Environment Agency has served a notice requiring the operator to reduce the risk of smells. The deadline is the 9th of February. We expect them to comply. If they don't, all options, including suspension and closure, remain on the table.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Following Storm Chandra, vast swathes of West Dorset are underwater with an amber warning in place. We're expecting more flooding. Whole villages have become islands. 84 houses in Yetminster have sewage in them. One family in Maiden Newton had only just moved back into their house after 15 months of repairs after the last flooding, only to get flooded again within 3 days. Will the Minister please come and visit West Dorset, explain to residents how she is going to get the water companies and the Environment Agency to focus on flood-prone areas?
I thank the honourable gentleman for his question, and I can hear the sort of passion and upset when he talks about the devastating impact of repeated flooding that has had on his community. Obviously, we are putting record amounts of money into flooding that will continue to do so. We're also looking at how we can work more effectively with other agencies in the area. I share his concern over the next few weeks. I think it's going to continue to be quite wet. I know, and I give thanks, of course, to the emergency services and everybody involved.
Mr. Speaker, Tideswell Brook was deemed to be the second most pharmaceutically polluted river in the UK, despite being a site of special scientific interest and in the National Park. Concentrations of some chemicals are currently more than 2.8 times higher than annual average environmental standards. Will the government therefore follow the example recently set by the European Union and require sewage treatment works to treat pharmaceutical micropollutants?
Minister.
My honourable friend raises a really important point, and you'll have noticed that we published the PFAS plan just earlier on this week, looking at the issues around chemical pollution and how we can tackle it more effectively. And we absolutely recognise the serious concerns at Tideswell Brook. For our water white paper, we are reforming wastewater regulation and we are enabling earlier interventions, and I'll be keeping a close eye on the situation as it develops.
Roger Gale.
Mr. Speaker, on the 8th of January, the United States Secretary for the Interior wrote to the Secretary of State on behalf of the big game hunting industry, asking her to ensure that the government would abandon its commitment to the ban on the importing of trophies from hunting. In her reply, will the Secretary of State give a robust indication that this government is committed to that ban?
I thank him for that question. We are committed to banning trophy hunting. It is a manifesto commitment and we will take it forward.
Catherine Atkinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The beautiful River Derwent flows through Derby and up to the Peak District, a river that powered the early industrial revolution. I've met with local councils, MPs and our East Midlands Mayor, as well as many local and regional organisations who agree that turning our existing rambling walks and cycle paths into a continuous river walk would have massive health, economic and wellbeing benefits. Can the Minister please provide an update on establishing regional river walks?
Thank you. Well, in our manifesto, we said we would deliver 9 new national river walks, 1 in every region, to bring nature closer to people and to make it accessible to everyone. She paints an amazing picture of the beautiful River Derwent. The first river walk in the northwest will be completed in the spring. The locations of the next walks will be subject to competition later this year. I do encourage the Honourable Lady and all the partners she mentions to apply.
Final question, Nadine Ramsey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The government's own National Security Assessment warns that biodiversity loss and ecosystem collapse pose serious risks to the UK's long-term food security and intensified natural disasters. Given that Parliament has not yet had the opportunity to debate this assessment, will the Secretary of State support my call for a dedicated debate so the risks and the actions across government can be properly scrutinised by this House?
Well, the Secretary of State and I have just spent a couple of days in Manchester with the International Science Panel on nature looking at that. So we'll have a report on Monday about how business can do better in terms of tackling these risks. We are bringing the nature and climate debates together, and I'm sure there will be time to debate them in the House, so subject to your approval.
Right, let us change the front bench over.